Willkommen zurück hier auf der Hauptbühne der Austria Comic Con 2019. Wir haben jetzt ein ganz, ganz besonderes Panel für euch. Kevin und Sam SORBO warten hinter der Bühne auf uns. Vorher möchte ich noch erwähnen, wir haben 2 Leute hier im Publikum mit Mikrofonen ausgestattet. Vielleicht macht es euch ganz kurz bemerkbar. Wo sind unsere Mikros? Einmal rechts, einmal links von mir aus gesehen. Falls ihr Fragen habt, bitte einfach aufzeigen. Ihr bekommt dann umgehend ein Mikrofon. Könnt Kevin und Sam eure Fragen stellen. Das ist ja der Sinn des Panels. Und für diejenigen, die ihre Frage lieber auf Deutsch stellen wollen, ist das selbstverständlich kein Problem. Dann übersetze ich einfach. Bevor ich starte, möchte ich aber noch einen ganz, ganz großen Dank aussprechen an das ganze Team der Austria Comic Con, an unsere Bühnencrew und an die Techniker von Event Solution. Einen großen Applaus einmal. But we are actually here to introduce 2 awesome people. We are grateful to have them here, and we are definitely not disappointed to have Kevin and Sam SORBO. Hello. Hello, nice to meet you. Please have a seat. Grab your mics. And I just had to use this line as an introduction. I love it. Actually, it's not just my favorite part of the show. It's one of my favorite moments from TV history because of the background story, because it was actually a stage direction, and you just shouted it so loud and so powerfully.
Okay. It was not stage direction.
Okay?
I hate to ruin the myth. That's what people think it was. They think it was the line that I was supposed to say in a disappointed way. That's not the case. Michael Hurst and I would ad-lib on the show. Michael played Aeolus all the time. We'd always add lines. So as the sovereign, when I end up in the world of Hercules and I looked around, what popped into my head was a movie called A Fish Called Wanda with Kevin Kline, and 3 times in the movie he said, "Disappointed!" And I just yelled it out, and they kept it in there. But it's had millions and millions of hits, so I love any reason why people think it's out there, but that just popped into my brain. If you haven't seen A Fish Called Wanda, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful movie, and that's where that popped in. But I love the fact that people think it was, I said the line, I didn't say the line, I said the screen direction of how I was supposed to say it.
That wasn't even screen direction in the script.
No, I don't even think I had a line. I think the only line I was supposed to say was, wait a minute, this isn't my world. And then I just added it and threw it in there. But that happened a lot on the show. For a lot of things that you loved about Hercules, with the humor in there as well, was a lot of stuff that Michael and I would just say on the day.
And a lot of the crew behind Hercules, they are very humorous people. The producers and Bruce Campbell, who starred in a few episodes, who directed a few episodes. What was it like, off camera when you were discussing new ideas, when you were changing scripts and adding ideas? How can we imagine this sort of process?
Well, we shot for the 7 seasons down in New Zealand, which is just beautiful, by the way, so I recommend going there. What we did, like any television show, you always have the blocking before. So you get out there with the director and the camera guys and the lighting guys, and you sort of walk through the scene. And if you're a good director, you kind of let the actors sort of say, I feel comfortable here, or whatever. You let them sort of guide the way. But as a director, you also want to say, it makes more sense though if your character goes here. So you have a nice collaboration. But I always thought that they should have filmed Hercules as rehearsals and then edited that as the sort of reality show before the next hour was the actual edited show. Because as Sam knows, she did 7, 8 episodes of the series. There were a lot of laughs on the set. It was a very amazing crew to work with. The entire crew, for the most part, went on to work on Lord of the Rings when we finished filming. And Bruce started directing, Bruce Campbell, Michael Hurst, and I all started directing. Our very first time ever directing was on Hercules. That's pretty much where it started for us in the director's world.
Okay, if you look back at the show, imagine season 1, imagine the last season. What do you think is the thing that changed the most over the course of the series?
I got married to her. So, that's true. I went in as a single man, very much. I've always been a flirt. So, Sam, tell them the story of how we met.
So I went down to New Zealand to shoot an episode of Hercules, and I was actually a little concerned because I had just shot a show here, well, actually it was in Canada with a guy who had his own show and a sidekick. It was a buddy sidekick show, and they had to call him 45 minutes before they needed him on set because he made them wait. He had a very large ego. And so I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going down to shoot with, on the #1 show in the world with a guy who's arguably a lot more attractive than the guy I just shot with. And I was kind of concerned that I was going to deal with somebody with a huge ego. And then my flight got delayed because the volcano erupted. And so I was a day late, and I missed the...
There was a volcano a couple hours from Auckland that erupted, and they had to cancel all flights. So she missed the first day.
So my flight was canceled. So I came down a day late, and I wasn't there for the cast read-through. And because it was a love story, and I was the guest star, the director wanted me to do a read-through with Kevin just alone. So I showed up at the director's apartment, and in walks Kevin, and I had decided that because the guy that I had just finished working with had been such a jerk that, and this was a love story, that I needed to sort of break the barrier and just sort of start off on a really friendly foot. So he came in to shake hands and I went in for a hug. And he said, oh, okay, we'll do the Hollywood thing. And he got embarrassed. And I was like, that's weird. And then the next day I showed up on set and he came by the camper and he flirted a little bit. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And the makeup artist said, oh, he likes you. And I said, come on. Oh no, I know, and he likes you. And then we shot the goodbye scene first because typically by the end of shooting a show, the actors and actresses hate each other. So they always schedule the goodbye scene, the really tender moments, you know, they try to schedule them up front. And we were standing on a castle drawbridge. I was dressed in my regal gowns as the queen, or the princess, I suppose.
It was a night shoot.
It was a night shoot. There was a moat. There was fog on the moat wafting around. And we started rehearsing our lines, and he kept going up on his lines. He kept forgetting his lines. And at one point he turned...
I don't forget lines.
And I thought, how unprofessional. And at one point he turned to Michael and he said, Michael, help me out here. And Michael said, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. So, and I thought, this is weird. There's something weird happening. But he was awfully cute. And so the first AD came and said, okay, we need you guys to sit down. We're going to redo some of the lighting, so have a seat. And by the way, in the rehearsals, we would rehearse the lines and then we'd say, okay, and then we kiss. Okay, and then we kiss. But we wouldn't kiss because we were just rehearsing. So we sat down in our chairs, off set, and I got a little frisky. I said to the makeup artist, do you have a breath mint? And all three makeup artists, with their breath mints, they were like, right on it. And I said, oh, not for me, for him. At which point he said, oh, haha, okay, fine, I'll take one. And I said, you know what, I'll take one too. And then about a minute later, he leans over, he looks down the row of seats, he goes, maybe we should try these things out, see if they work. I'm not one to back down from a flirt. I said, maybe we should. And so he got up and he walked over to my chair, and I'll never forget, he put a hand here and a hand here, and he leaned in and he looked me straight in the eye and he kissed me. Kinda.
I still had to talk her into going out with me on a date though, because she says, I don't date actors, and I don't date guys with long hair.
And I don't date long distance.
Or long distance, yes, because we had the Pacific Ocean between us, but I wore her down.
And there is another quote from you that I read, because you were on 2 long-running TV shows. You were the only actor appearing in all 110 episodes of Andromeda. You were in 111 episodes of Hercules Plus TV movies. And you once said, it's a funny thing about TV that once you start to do it, you never get the time to watch it.
Well, it's true. I mean, because you're working, you know, on Hercules, a typical day for me was 14 hours a day on the set. And then I would go lift weights for 2 hours a day. And then depending on the location, a lot of times it was 17 or 18 hours door to door. From the time I left the house to get back, 17 or 18 hours had gone by. And I would get home and I would study my lines for the next day. I'd go to bed at midnight, wake up at 4:30 and do it all over again. And it was a schedule I got used to, and I just sort of got into it, and it's the way it is, but there was no time to watch anything, you know? So I think the only thing I ever watched were maybe in the campers, I'd watch dailies of the Hercules show just to sort of see what it looked like, what we just shot the day before that, just to sort of see if it looks like the way I was hoping it would look like.
Yeah, so as a young actress in LA, I had reached a point in my career, I was doing a lot of work and things were going really well, and I was saying, okay, God, I'm ready for my own show. I want my own show. I thought, I should have my own show. And then I went down and I shot an episode of Hercules with this guy, and I watched how hard he worked. And he did all the fight scenes. He learned new choreography every other day. He had a fight scene, and he had to learn all the choreography. Okay, this way, then that way, then this way, then that way, then kick. And I saw that, and I tell you, on the flight home, I said, okay, God, I don't want my own show because that's too much work. Seriously.
We did pretty much 3 fights every episode. And my ego was, I can do my own fight scenes, because I grew up in athletes and I loved doing it. They were fun. My stunt guys were amazing. Many have gone on to do so many other things. One of them, Ben Cook, has been Daniel Craig's body double in all of the stunts on James Bond movies. And it was, to me, it was like a dance, because we would rehearse for 2 days off set while I would do a scene, they'd be lighting it, I'd go over here 20 meters away with the stunt guys, we'd rehearse the fight scene even though it was the next day or the day after that, because a lot of fight scenes, I would be fighting 12 guys by myself. So it becomes like a dance. So I've got to memorize 24 to 36 different moves, swords, kicks, whatever. And in all those years, I only hit one stunt guy. And I got good at it and not hitting guys. But this one guy, Cliff, I'm standing up, I'm fighting all these guys in front of me here. He's supposed to run. He's got a mark here where he's supposed to stop. He went a meter over that mark, and I throw an elbow like this. I caught him, busted his nose, was way over there. His eyes were water. He was like, dude, I'm sorry. He goes, not your fault, man, not your fault. But I felt so bad. It's the only time I've ever hit a stunt guy. Michael Hurst, on the other hand, would hit guys all the time, and they would get so mad at Michael because his punches weren't pulled enough. And they'd go, man, I'll tell you, if he hits me one more time.
Was it 17 stitches?
I had to do, when we introduced Xena we didn't know if it was going to be a TV series, a spin-off of Hercules yet. So at the end of season 2, we had a 3-show arc introducing the character of the warrior princess. And I had a tough time with the storyline where she would be able to seduce him and make him turn against me, but I lost that battle. So Michael and I had to fight each other, and we had this sword fight going on. And there were so many moves while all the bad Xena warrior guys are around us in a circle. There was a certain move where I'd bend down and do a 360 on the ground. So Michael's shorter than me, quite a bit, but still, when you do stunts, you're supposed to look at the guy all the time. If you're coming in to do any kind of a kick, you're supposed to look at the face. If you watch any kung fu movie, you can see the guys, they always have eye contact with each other. So when I did the spin move, when I got this low, I felt Michael's sword go right here. And I felt it. And I said to Peter Bell, our stunt choreographer, I said, Peter, I don't like that move. I mean, Michael's almost hit me in the head. And Mike goes, "Oh, mate, I'm a New Zealand fencing champion. Don't worry, everything will be fine." On the very first take, as I'm spinning down, Michael hits me in the back of the head with a sword. And I'm down, and I'm out. They rushed me to hospital. I had a concussion. I had more than a dozen stitches in the back of my head. And if you look at the replay on it, thank God he hit me with the flat side of the sword. If he hit me with that, I probably wouldn't be here speaking to you right now. And like I said, you're always supposed to watch. If you watch the replay, Michael's like this. Eyes closed, looking up, not even looking at me. Yeah, dirty dog. I think he wanted his own show.
Well, just before that, I was actually thinking if he constantly hits other actors, maybe he was doing it on purpose, kind of his way of getting revenge. Oh my God, now we got to do take number 65. I'll show you 65.
We didn't do 65 takes. We moved very quickly. We shot long, 9 to 10 days, certainly not as big as Game of Thrones, which shoots like 20-some day episodes. I mean, that's such a big budget. But we shot 9 to 10 day episodes, and we had to move fairly quickly because a lot of the setups were big and time consuming in itself. So it was a matter of just keeping the flow going. But we got so good with the crew and the actors coming down, and I think as all guest stars even coming down, they learned very quickly. It was a very relaxed set with no ego thing. It was just fun, and we laughed a lot. There were a lot of laughs in the set, and it was a very important 7-year chapter in my life, and I miss it dearly. It was wonderful. But without Hercules, Andromeda wouldn't have happened, and since then, many of you are probably unaware, but I've shot 61 movies since Hercules finished. So I've got 5 new movies coming out this year, and I've got 2 more lined up, and I've been doing more directing with them as well.
Okay, let's ask the audience whether someone has a question he or she would like to ask. Please, give us a show of hands. Einmal Hand in die Höhe, wer eine Frage an Kevin und Sam stellen möchte. Ja, in der ersten Reihe gleich, wunderbar.
I thank you first to be here, very nice. Do you show up with the guys from Hercules? The other actors, do you have contact with them?
Do I keep in touch with Michael and I? Michael Hurst is probably the number 1 Shakespearean actor in all of New Zealand, and he loves the stage. He does a lot of theater work. I know he went on to direct some more of the Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert, who are exec producers. They also produced the Spartacus series and the Evil Dead, so I know he ended up directing on those as well. So I keep in touch with Michael probably the most. I mean, you know how life is. I mean, he got married and had kids, I got married and had kids, and I'm in America, he's in New Zealand, and we're all busy. So it's hard to, but we send pictures, you know, 4 or 5 times a year we catch up on life to see what's going on. Same thing in Andromeda. I think of my cast on that one, Gordon, who played Harper, became pretty close. You keep in touch with his wife?
Yeah. And every so often we have people visit from New Zealand who we know from Hercules, so that's fun.
Some of the crew will coming through Los Angeles or something will stay with us for a while that we were very good friends with.
Some of the actors, some of the guest stars you still keep in touch with, so yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you.
Okay, one question I have for Sam, because you both appeared in other shows, of course, for a few episodes, but you actually have one TV appearance in 2001 that I find very interesting because it's one of the longest running crime TV shows in the world, and it's a German series called Tatort. How was your involvement there?
Why are you laughing? That's not funny, it's a crime show. So I became known, I speak several languages, and that became sort of known in Hollywood, and I guess Tatort reached out through, you know, I honestly don't remember how it happened, but they found me and they said, oh, she speaks German, would she be interested in doing this? And it brought me to Vienna for 10 days, and I was like, sure. So it was a lot of fun, speaking German in a German TV series. I also did, there was another one called Blaues Blut or something that I did years before. And I've done a couple of French things, and it's just fun. I love the travel that's involved too. So yeah, Tatort. That was a lot of fun.
What do you think about Vienna? What do you still remember? Because it's my hometown and I love it, and you've been there.
Yeah, so we just spent 2 days in Vienna with the kids, and I never got to know Vienna that well, but I know enough to have, you know, we found our way around. We went to the Staatskammer, sorry, what's it called? Schatzkammer. And the imperial apartments, and we went to Demon, and we went to Landmann, and we walked through the parks, and we really enjoyed it. The weather could have been nicer, but at least it didn't quite rain on us. It drizzled a little bit. We had a lot of fun, and it was great to be able to share that with the kids, because this is for our kids, this is their first trip to Europe, and so to start in Vienna, I think, was a real gift.
It's my first time back in Vienna since I shot Call the Conqueror way back in 1996 during a hiatus from Hercules, because I shot in Croatia but also shot in Bratislava, Slovakia. We shot 6-day weeks, and on my Sunday off I would drive into Vienna to spend the day in Vienna walking around and checking stuff out and just grabbing a nice Weissbier and hanging out with some of the other crew and actors from the movie.
And there is also something I like to call tough guys doing comedy, because last year we had Lou Ferrigno here on the stage, who famously did King of Queens. And you also appeared in a load of comedy shows. You were in Dharma and Greg, which I loved as a child, and According to Jim, and 2.5 Men, which I loved as a child 2 weeks ago. So, why are you laughing? So how is I don't know, what's basically the appeal for someone who is known for doing tough work, strong work, martial arts work, to go into comedy?
But there was a lot of comedy in Hercules as well, and even in Andromeda. I love doing that. I mean, I've done a number of guest spots on a number of variety shows, like you said. I did my own sitcom called Bobby Cannon. It tested #1 for ABC, and yet they didn't pick it up. It's weird. You get the egos of these presidents of these studios, and they decide what the world gets to see. So a lot of people, not only in this country but around the world, will never see shows that have done very well in the testing markets in America and Canada, but for whatever ego reasons or other, who knows what reasons, that they were sitting there. I made a deal with this guy, and I told him I'd put on his show instead. If you get a chance, check out Bobby Cannon. It's on YouTube. You can watch the whole episode on YouTube, but it was a very funny show. It would have been an 8-year hit. It remains to be the biggest disappointment of my career that show didn't go. But I love doing it. You're in front of a live audience. Every Friday night, it's like doing a little play. You rehearse Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, boom, you have a live studio audience, and it's a lot of fun.
And the good news is we just produced a comedy. So he's back in the role of a comedic
movie. It's a movie.
Actor. Yeah, it's a film. It'll be coming out next year.
Called Miracle in East Texas. It's going to open hopefully at the end of the year in America, and hopefully it gets around the world as well. So, but Hercules was a very comedic show. I think everybody who watched Hercules gets that. I mean, the shot of the guy, he throws a guy through a wall, and there's a cutout of a gingerbread guy in the wall. Well, they always put little sound effect. Even when my head turned, they go. They put a sound effect on it, you know, and I thought that was just fun. And in fight scenes, I would help doing the minor choreography. Peter Bell would do the major stuff, but I would say, okay, if I'm going to pick this guy up and throw him 100 meters, let him land in a cow poop, you know. Right. And then when I kick the sword from this guy's hand, get a shot of that sword flying through the air, and as the guy 100 meters away is trying to get up, the sword hits him in the head and knocks him back down into the cow poop. To me, that's what made the show fun and the charm of it.
When they first started Hercules, when they first started filming, it was fairly dark.
The first movie, the first 2-hour movie was a little dark for me, and I told Sam Raimi, I said, Sam, you created Evil Dead. The whole thing about it is really campy humor. I said, we have to do that with Hercules because people will laugh at the show instead of laugh with us. And I think that's what happened. We invited the audience in. I think that's why it became so popular. I mean, we're still in 60 countries. I get invited to 30 conventions like this around the world every year, and I pick out 6 or 7 to go to, because of the time, obviously. And every time I go, and I've had it happen here too, where people come to me and say, this show was very special, I watched it with my grandfather who's now passed away, I watched it with my mom, I watched it with my family. And it's a show that brought people together. The editor of TV Guide, the magazine every week in America shows you every channel and what's going on. He wrote me a letter saying, this is our family's favorite show. We watch this show all the time. And the number of people that watched it blew my mind, and even from all walks of life. I remember one year going to the Academy Awards, and I saw Tom Hanks across the room, and I asked my entertainment lawyer who I was with, I said, David, I would love to meet Tom Hanks. He goes, oh, I know him. I'm tapping my shoulder. It was Tom Hanks. And he says, Kevin, I'm Tom Hanks, I'm such a big fan. He says, I watch your show all the time. I said, Tom, I know who you are. But it's interesting the number of people that have watched the show and loved it. Somebody's coming into our room.
Astrid Stadelmann, haben wir eine Astrid Stadelmann hier? Anyways, just helping where I can. The thing is, whenever I talk to actors and going through their filmography, I always find one project that kind of stands out. So for you it was Tatort, and when I went through your filmography, actually I went through my own DVD shelf because I know the film for a long time, it's Julia X, because it's a mixture of kind of comedy, but also a lot of gore. And all the other projects that you did in the past, they had comedic elements, or there were comedy elements, or had a little bit of violence, like the Walking Tall movies, but you never did a gory film. How come?
When they sent me Julia X, if you haven't seen it, because I know it was in theaters over here years ago, it actually won the Austin Film Festival, and which is a pretty big festival in America, in Texas. I always thought the subtitle for Julia X should have been A Very Unusual Love Story, because there was a very strange, it's a very strange, I play a serial killer.
Very.
It was the first movie I've ever made where I told my mom, I said, you can't watch this movie. So, but it's interesting. I play a character that gets his victims off the internet dating service. And it was just creepy fun to do, and I had a good time doing it. We shot a lot at nights, which really wasn't fun. Shot in Shreveport, Louisiana, and it was interesting. It was an interesting movie, and it was fun to do something different from what I was sort of known for, and it's still one of my favorite movies. She hasn't seen it yet because she doesn't like to see that kind of stuff either, but I would recommend it. Just don't have your 5-year-old watch it.
I was on set. I saw enough.
In 2004, you made an interesting film called God's Not Dead, which is a film that kind of changed something in your career, because if I'm not mistaken, it was the first religious movie that you have done, and after it, there were like 10 other religious movies that followed, and in 2017, the whole SORBO family did a movie together called Let There Be Light, that Sam wrote, that you both starred in, that your sons starred in. How come, and especially since you are a Christian family, how do you see other projects that you've done in the past that are basically, I don't want to call it un-Christian, with violence and maybe raunchier subject matters?
Well, I'm not such a prude that way, I guess.
Hold on. First of all, the first Christian movie that he did was a little film called What If.
What If?
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was years
The same
before.
writers that did God's Not Dead.
It was like 5 years before.
2 years.
When was it?
2010. Andromeda shot in 2012.
2010.
God's Not Dead was shot in
Okay.
2012.
Okay, so in 2010 he did this little movie that was basically, in my estimation, it was the first Hollywood caliber, unabashedly faith-based film. And it was a great experience. It didn't go very far because they didn't have the infrastructure to support it, to promote it. And then came God's Not Dead, and that did mark a shift at that point. But it wasn't like it was just like, wow, people want to see this, because God's Not Dead was a $2 million movie that made over $140 million worldwide. It went like wildfire. And so when an audience tells you this is what they want, you know, it's called show business. It's business, it's not show, you know?
Well, I think of the 61 movies I've done, I think most of them, other than Julia X, most of them are family friendly. I think I like to do movies that have a more positive message in there. I don't want to sit there. I know people. There's atheism. There's agnostic. There's all that stuff. I don't judge people in that way. It's not sort of my style. I'm a live and let live sort of person. But I like to do movies that have maybe a good message in there without being too preachy. I don't want to be preachy. I know that turns people off, and I don't need to be that way.
I think we see entertainment as we want people to leave the theater feeling better about themselves. We want it to be uplifting in some way.
Well, look, I wanted to be an actor for the reason that maybe you love television and movies as well. I love to be touched and moved. I want to laugh. I want to cry. I want to think. And I wanted to play characters that people could relate to, or they know people who know characters like that. I want them to walk. Look, I love a good action movie like just anybody else, but you sit there and you watch an Avengers movie, and I love it just like most people in this room probably do, but you still walk out and go, wow, they just took down about 47 buildings in New York City, so that means about, I don't know, 8 million people just died. And we don't think about that, you know? We just don't pay attention to that. I said, and I get stopped all the time now, more than Hercules and Andromeda when I travel, saying, please make more movies like this. Please make more friendly movies like that, family movies. So I just did a movie called Bernie the Dolphin, and it's a kid's movie. But Lionsgate loved it so much, we just shot the sequel, which will come out later this year as well. And it's interesting, you sort of forget, there are a lot of families out there with 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids that want to be able to bring their kids to the movie as well. Because I still love going to the movie theater, as I'm sure most of you do. It's fun to have that escape, to get in that big room and that stuff will never go away. I think that's always going to be here with us. And sometimes I think Hollywood they want to do Pirates of the Caribbean 12 and Avengers 14 and Thor 7, which is fine because they're still making money on them, right? And I will go to it as well, but I still want to see movies that, the independent movies that are out there, that small little indies that have real life characters in it.
Yeah, that touch your heart and lift you up.
What would you say was the biggest difference? What would you say was the biggest difference making a movie with your family instead of making movies with basically total strangers?
We argue a lot more from the set together. I'm strong-willed, she's strong-willed. We have ideas for the movie because she produces most of these movies that I've been directing as well. And you want to make the best movie possible, but I think the greatest blessing we've had is really the crews we've hired. We've had amazing people to work with. I work fast. I like to work fast. I don't want to do 14 takes, you know? If you're an actor, come in, know your marks, know your lines, let's do this. If you're a DP, know how you want to light things. I mean, I say, look, this is the look I want, now create that for me. You hire people around you that know what they're doing, and I think that's the biggest key. But, I mean, there certainly there's a difference if I'm in a movie that you're not involved in at all.
I get to tell people what to do. That's fun. Including my kids.
And they listen to you.
But they listen to me anyway. You know,
They're
we've
teenagers,
worked together.
they don't listen.
We've worked together before on various projects. We've worked on Hercules. I appeared on Andromeda several times, and then
We did one of my favorite westerns together, Avenging Angel.
we did. And there's.
If you like westerns, check out Avenging Angel. It's a good one. My next movie's a western. We're starting to film up in Calgary, in Canada, this summer, and I'm directing that one as well as got the lead in it.
So the real shift with Let There Be Light was he was directing and I was producing, which meant that we were both in charge, which is different than when there's a different director and other producers, right? Because then we're both for hire. But what's great is, I mean, and this is true all the way back to when we first met. There's a synergy between us that just works. So even we argue, sure, but we resolve it and we move on, and it works. And I think that one of the greatest gifts is when he's directing, I can sort of foresee what he's going to need and fill that need before it becomes like something crucial, or, you know, sort of avert the disaster because I understand intrinsically what he wants to do or where he's going, and vice versa, actually. So it's just, so in a sense, it's just been a tremendous blessing, despite the little bit of extra sort of stuff that happens.
When you're directing and acting in a movie, you're wearing both hats, and sometimes both hats come on at the same time. So there are certain scenes that I know I'm in the scene, but I'm watching the other actors at the same time when I should be listening to them instead of watching them. And she'll come up to me after it and she goes, "You need to do that again. You need to be a lot more angry. You need to be remember where you're coming from here." And I'll get mad because she's right. So, and it helps to have that extra set of eyes on the set, creative eyes, that reminds you of what you're supposed to be doing in certain scenes. Because as an actor, you never shoot things really in order anyway. So a lot of times, if you're really there as an actor for that scene, it's good to look at the previous scenes leading up to it to remind yourself what emotion you're coming at. Because you may have shot that scene 2 weeks ago. And remember where you're coming from right now. So you gotta, okay, yeah.
But also, if you're in a scene with your child, there's a weird conflict of interest, because I'm there watching my child and wanting him to perform, and I'm not performing myself. It's a similar thing, and so at some point you have to say, okay, wait a minute. Okay, he's just going to do what he does. Now it's I really have to do what I'm supposed to be doing here, instead of being, you know, mom. What do they call that? Momager, right? Which I'm not, but still, stage mother, yeah, that kind of thing. So it creates, it has its challenges, but the blessings far outweigh the challenges. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, I think if I look at my watch, we still have time for one quick question from the audience. Anybody who has a question prepared? Here in the second row was the first hand I saw. Second row in the middle.
Hi, it's good to meet you. I have a question, and I've read that you have the idea of the character of Hercules, that you didn't want him to have weapons and only fight with fists. Was this your idea of the series of having a higher morality? Because it's like he seems sometimes like a spiritual master who is fighting evil and wants to bring good to the world. Is this a theme that you thought when the series was created?
Well, what's that? Well, yeah, no, I think there's a lot of what you said is true. As I mentioned in the very first movie, I thought the character was a little too serious. I mean, I like the dramatic moments that we had in the show, but I think the way that the way the writers finally started going with it, and the way I started playing the character, hit a mark with so many people, because we had so many thousands of letters that would come in from around the world every week in New Zealand. Obviously, I can't read all those letters. I would do the best I can, but we had so many letters that came in from under, you know, teenagers and younger, saying that your character has showed me so much that you're a hero to me because I don't have to get angry for reasons that used to make me angry. I don't have to fight somebody for the sake of fighting, because it really was, Hercules wouldn't go look for a fight. It was always something that was brought to him and say, look, we don't have to do this. He'd always try to make things in a more peaceful way, but if push came to shove, yeah, he would kick some ass, you know. So, but I love the fact that even in the dramatic episodes we did, there was always that element of humanity to Hercules that made it interesting for people.
So the idea that he didn't need weapons is intrinsic to Hercules. He's strong enough that he doesn't need to augment that strength with any kind of man-made weapon. But there's a story that Kevin tells about Anthony Quinn that kind of illustrates this this idea that the actor comes in with an idea of the character that maybe hasn't really been fully considered by the people who are creating the series. And it's, you know the story I'm talking about.
Now, I know there's a young crowd here, but I hope some people know the name Anthony Quinn. Pretty big actor.
Yeah.
So for him to take the role of Zeus at the age of 78 was amazing for me, because I know who Anthony Quinn is. He's been nominated 6 times for Academy Awards. He's won twice. He's done hundreds of movies. When he took the role, the first thing I asked him, I go, Mr. Quinn, why would you take this television movie role, do 5 movies? And he said, I've always wanted to play Zeus. I'm 78. When will this ever happen for me again? So, but he would never, ever want to come in to do the blocking. He wanted to be in his camper and me to go into his camper alone to go through the script. And he would say, I'm not saying this is shit. I'm not saying any of this. He would cross stuff out. He would say, I'm going to say something like this, and then you'll think of something, won't you, sweetheart? And I went, oh my God. So there was a very big scene that we were setting up. They had 3 cameras that they built this huge horse stables, this barn. And I was going to walk in with the horse, and Mr. Quinn came in all dressed up as Zeus, and he sat down on 2 bales of hay. He sat down, folded his legs and arms like this, and then the director went into basically 10 minutes explaining what the scene was going to be about, how much coverage they're going to have. I bring in the horse, I go here, Mr. Quinn walks over there as Zeus, all this stuff going on. Quinn let him talk for 10 minutes. And when he was done, he said, yeah, I'm not going to do any of that. He said, I'm going to appear right here. He didn't want to move. And we did the scene, and instinctively, as an actor, it didn't happen on purpose. I came in with the horse, he appears, we start to talk, I gravitate to him, and I sat down on a lower bale of hay, so I would look up to him as a son to the father. And I got goosebumps, because as an actor, I love stuff like that. That happens intrinsically. It happens while you're on the set. And it happens for people in stage play. It's never always going to be the same. Maybe the lines are, but they move around. It could be differently. And at the end of it, his reasoning for that, he said, I'm Zeus. I'm the king of the gods. People come to me. I don't go to them. And I thought, he's not wrong. He didn't say it out of ego or to be a jerk. He said it because he was in the characters. It was enough for him to show up to visit me. I'm not going to follow him around. He comes to me. And I thought, brilliant. And I learned a lot from him in that year we worked together. We stayed very close friends, keeping in touch up until he passed away 8 years later. But it was an amazing part of my life to meet and work with a man that did Lawrence of Arabia, you know, so it was pretty cool.
Sadly, that's all we have time for today. I need to close the panel. Aber wenn ihr noch etwas von Kevin und Sam Sorbo haben wollt, ein Autogramm gibt es jederzeit bei Ihnen am Stand. Die Foto-Op mit Kevin Sorbo findet heute zwischen 16:45 Uhr und 17:15 Uhr statt. Und morgen gibt es das Stargast-Panel mit Kevin und Sam Sorbo wieder um 12:45 Uhr. Alle, die jetzt eine Frage stellen wollten und leider nicht drangekommen sind, können das natürlich morgen machen.
Do you talk about tonight? There's a VIP tonight.
Und vielen Dank alle, die Tickets für die VIP-Night haben. Die findet natürlich heute am Abend statt.
We'll meet and greet. I'm going to sign a photo, a beautiful drawing of Hercules that's not at my table, and we're going to show an episode of Hercules and have a Q&A afterwards.
And there is a special Q&A. You can find information about the VIP night in the brochure that you can find basically anywhere, and you can go to the info point to see if there's still any tickets left, which I doubt. So in case you're interested in that, hurry. Really? Auf Deutsch. Ja. Wenn ihr noch... Irgendwann einmal kommt man durcheinander. Wenn ihr noch Tickets für die VIP-Night haben wollt, ich bezweifle, dass es noch welche gibt, für den Fall, dass es noch Restkarten gibt, würde ich mich beeilen, zum Infopoint sprinten und schauen, dass man noch welche bekommt. Das war das Panel mit Kevin und Sam Sorbo. Vielen Dank fürs Kommen. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Das war toll. Ich hoffe, es sind jetzt nicht zu viele Leute traurig, dass sie ihre eigenen Fragen noch nicht stellen konnten. Wie gesagt, morgen gibt es noch eine Chance. Bitte nicht vergessen, wir haben jetzt hier auf der Hauptbühne mehr oder weniger direkt im Anschluss, während man mir die Bühne quasi unterm Hintern abbaut, gleich das nächste große Highlight hier auf der Bühne. Ich würde auf jeden Fall die Leute bitten, die sich dafür interessieren, dann Platz zu nehmen. Wir starten tatsächlich mit 2 Minuten Verspätung, bin in 2 Minuten wieder da und dann starten wir mit der Modeschau. Bis gleich!